You know what separates the winners from the whiners. It's not luck, it's not talent, and it's definitely not background. It's the way they speak. Language is the seed of reality. It's how you create or destroy. It's how you decide if you're a leader or a follower. The difference between a man who builds an empire and a man who watches others live his dream is not just in action. It starts with words. I'm talking about the words you speak to the world, and more importantly, the words you speak to yourself when nobody's watching. Every time you open your mouth, you're either confirming your strength or reinforcing your weakness. And the truth is, most people don't even realize how much they sabotage themselves with weak talk. Weak talk is soft, uncertain, filled with fear and wrapped in excuses. It sounds harmless on the surface, but it's venom to the soul. You say things like, I hope it works out, or maybe someday I'll start that business, or I don't want to risk too much. Do you hear that? That's the language of someone who's already lost. That's the voice of someone who has surrendered before the fight even started. You don't just accidentally win in life, you speak it, you decide it, you declare it, you stand on it. Weak talk is like trying to win a war while whispering into the wind. No conviction, no fire, no authority. That kind of talk doesn't move mountains. It doesn't even move pebbles. People walk around every day wondering why their life isn't changing, why opportunities keep slipping through their fingers, why their goals feel so far away. But they never stop to check their mouth. They never stop to evaluate the words they speak over their own life. Here's what weak talk really does. It trains your brain to settle. It convinces your body to stay still. It teaches your spirit to stop fighting. When you say things like, I'll try, your body hears, I might quit. When you say, I'm not sure, your mind hears, I don't believe. When you say, let's see what happens, your purpose hears, we're not serious. And before you know it, you're 10 years down the line, still sitting on the same ideas, still dealing with the same problems, still blaming everything but the one thing that never changed, your voice. You see, people want success to be about systems and strategies. That's the easy part. Anybody can copy a plan, but most can't duplicate the mindset. Most don't have the voice of power inside their own head. Most don't talk like they mean it, and that's where it all starts. There's a reason some people walk into a room and everyone pays attention before they even say a word. It's not just confidence, it's presence. It's the result of years spent mastering the way they speak to themselves and to others. If you walk around saying, I'll never be good enough, guess what? You won't. If you say, this is too hard, your actions will reflect that belief. And if you say, I'm just not lucky, life will continue to prove you right. That's the curse of weak talk. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You tell the world what to expect from you, and then you shrink to meet that low standard. You program your identity through repetition, and the more you repeat weakness, the more real it becomes. On the other hand, those who speak with certainty, those who use alpha language, they program power. They don't wait to feel strong to speak strong. They speak strong and let that voice shape their state. They say things like, I'm doing this no matter what. This is my season. I don't care how hard it is. I'm all in. That's not just motivation. That's identity. That's declaration. That's strategy for life. When you speak like that, even on your worst day, you give yourself the fuel to keep pushing. You tell your future you're on the way. You tell your fear to shut up and sit down. You see, weak talk is often disguised as humility. I don't want to be arrogant. I don't want to sound cocky. Listen, confidence isn't cockiness. Confidence is clarity. Confidence is certainty. You don't have to put others down to lift yourself up. But you do have to stop playing small just to make others comfortable. Playing small doesn't serve the world. It doesn't serve your purpose. It doesn't serve your family, your dreams, or your legacy. It just keeps you safe, and safe never built anything worth remembering. There's nothing wrong with being afraid. Fear is human, but weak talk is optional. You choose that, you feed that. You nurture that every time you use words that excuse your delay, justify your laziness, or protect your insecurity. You think just because you're not yelling at yourself, you're being kind. No, you're being passive. You're being permissive, you're letting weakness run your life one excuse at a time. Now ask yourself, what would happen if you changed your language today? What if instead of saying I'm tired, you said I'm capable? What if instead of saying I'm too busy, you said I'm focused? What if instead of saying I don't know how, you said I'll figure it out? That shift in language triggers a shift in belief. That shift in belief triggers a shift in action. And that shift in action becomes momentum. Suddenly you're not stuck anymore. You're moving, you're building, you're rising. You've got to start treating your words like weapons. Stop throwing them around recklessly. Every word you say either builds your future or buries it. And don't tell me it's just self-talk. That's the most powerful talk there is. That inner dialogue, that voice inside your head that never shuts up. That's the steering wheel of your life. If it's filled with weak talk, you'll drive in circles. You'll sabotage every opportunity before it even has a chance to grow. Think about this. The most successful people in the world, they didn't get there because they had perfect lives. They didn't get there because they had perfect timing. They got there because they spoke with such relentless belief in what they were doing, the world had no choice but to respond. They got there because they refused to let weak language rule their thoughts. Even when they were broke, even when they were laughed at, even when they were doubted, they said it and said it and said it until their life caught up with their words, and that's the difference. Some of you are waiting for your life to catch fire before you speak like a flame. But it doesn't work that way. The fire starts in your mouth. The conviction starts in your chest. The courage starts in your language. If you want to be seen as powerful, speak power. If you want to be respected, speak like someone who respects themselves. If you want to lead, speak like someone who already leads their own life. You don't ask life for greatness. You declare it. You don't whisper about your dreams. You roar. You don't tiptoe through your potential. You charge through it. But none of that is possible as long as you keep clinging to weak talk. Weak talk is the comfort zone's favorite language. It'll rock you to sleep while your dreams fade. It'll stroke your ego while your time slips away. It'll convince you that being realistic is noble when really, it's just fear dressed up in logic. Do you know what realistic people build? Nothing extraordinary. They build average lives filled with regret and missed chances. The ones who rise, the ones who win, they sound different. They talk like they've already decided the outcome. They speak like the ending has already been written in their favor. Not because it's easy, but because that kind of talk fuels them to keep going when it's hard. That's what alpha language is. It's not about being louder. It's about being more certain. It's not about arrogance. It's about alignment. When your words, your actions, and your beliefs are all moving in the same direction, life responds differently. Doors open, people pay attention, opportunities show up, not because the world changed, but because you changed how you showed up to it. So listen closely to yourself. Pay attention. Audit your speech. What words are you using when you talk about your goals? What words do you use when you talk about your future? What tone do you use when you talk about yourself? That tone becomes your truth. If it's full of fear, you'll stay frozen. If it's full of power, you'll move mountains. Your mouth is the microphone to your destiny. Use it with purpose. Speak with fire. Speak with faith. Speak like someone who's already walking in victory, not waiting for permission to win. Because once your language changes, your life follows every single time. Weak talk is a disease, and what most people don't understand is that it spreads quietly, invisibly, through your habits, your tone, your posture, your presence. But the cure is alpha language, and I don't mean barking orders at people or trying to dominate a room with noise. I mean speaking from authority, speaking from clarity, speaking with power because you are power. When you speak with alpha language, you don't need to be loud. You need to be undeniable. Weak talk hesitates. Alpha language declares. Weak talk waits for approval. Alpha language gives direction. Weak talk apologizes for existing. Alpha language claims space and moves with purpose. And here's the truth that stings for a lot of people. The world doesn't respect what you whisper. It responds to what you assert. People might not always like what you say, but they will always feel the weight behind it if it's spoken from strength. Weakness in your voice gives the world permission to ignore you. You've got to understand that language is how you frame your reality. It's how you define your boundaries, your beliefs, your vision, and your mission. The man who speaks from a position of power isn't lying to himself. He's aligning himself. Alpha language isn't some performance. It's not an act, it's alignment. When your thoughts match your words and your words match your action, you're a walking weapon. You become untouchable. That's when you walk into any room and people know, without you having to say a word, you are not to be overlooked. Now let's talk about something that most people don't realize. Alpha language begins before you speak. It begins in your decisions. It begins in your self-respect. It begins when you start taking yourself seriously. You can't speak like a leader if you live like a coward. You can't expect to sound powerful if your life is built on weakness. Alpha language isn't just about talking tough. It's the overflow of living with discipline, purpose, and focus. It's the voice of a man who's put in the reps, bled for the dream, sacrificed comfort, and built himself brick by brick. You can't fake alpha energy. People try, they scream, they curse, they puff their chest. But it's hollow. The room feels it. You feel it. That's why real presence doesn't come from noise. It comes from internal certainty. When you've trained yourself to dominate your own life, your voice doesn't tremble when you speak. When you've made hard choices, rejected excuses, and kept your word to yourself, that weight comes through every sentence you say. That's real alpha energy and that kind of language. It shifts atmospheres. Most people live in reaction mode. Life punches them in the face and they say, "Why me?" But the man who walks with power speaks differently. He says, "Try me." That's not just bravado, it's belief, it's identity. It's the decision to control the narrative instead of getting dragged by it. You see, weak talk complains, it looks for pity, it blames others. Alpha language takes ownership. It says, "This happened, now here's what I'm going to do." And when you speak like that consistently, you start building a reality where you're not the victim, you're the architect. Alpha language doesn't leave room for maybe. It doesn't entertain "I hope." It doesn't flirt with "someday." It speaks in absolutes because it already decided. You say things like, "This will happen," "I am the one," "There's no plan B," and not because you're blind to challenges, but because you refuse to leave your future up to chance. The man who speaks with alpha energy doesn't need reassurance. He creates it. He doesn't wait to be motivated. He speaks motivation into existence. And let me tell you something about doubt. It listens, it watches, it waits for your slip-ups. Every time you hesitate, every time you use words that show you're unsure, doubt moves in. But when you speak from conviction, doubt doesn't have a seat at the table. It gets drowned out by purpose. You want to destroy self. Doubt, don't just think positive. Speak aggressive, speak clear. Speak with force, speak like your life depends on it, because it does. The more you use language that reflects your mission, the more your mission becomes non-negotiable. Look around, the world is filled with noise, opinions, fear, and distractions. If you don't learn how to speak from center, from your core, you'll get lost in the crowd, and once your voice disappears, so does your identity. Weak talk dilutes your potential. It makes you average. And the scary thing is, average doesn't feel painful at first. It feels safe, comfortable, but it's the most expensive thing you'll ever pay for. Your dreams, your purpose, your legacy, all sacrificed for the illusion of peace. Alpha language shakes that fake peace. It interrupts comfort and demands progress. You need to start thinking like a commander. Every time you speak, it should have direction, authority, structure, no filler. No stalling, no wasted breath. Alpha language gets straight to the point. It's decisive, intentional, purposeful. People who use it don't speak just to fill silence. They speak to shift minds, create momentum, or move forward. They understand the value of each word, because in their world, every sentence is a strategy. Every phrase is part of the mission. You ever meet someone and instantly feel their conviction? That's not magic. That's the result of discipline, years of intentional living, pushing through resistance, showing up when it's hard, and speaking with alignment. That's what builds alpha language, and you don't need to be famous. You don't need millions in the bank. You don't need to be the loudest in the room. You just need to be certain about who you are and where you're going. Stop watering down your vision to make others comfortable. Stop softening your voice to avoid criticism. You weren't built to blend in. You were built to command. And if you want people to respect your presence, then you've got to speak like a man who respects himself. That means no more "I guess," no more "I'm trying," no more "we'll see." You don't try, you do. You don't guess, you know. You don't wait, you act. Some people think alpha energy is about being aggressive all the time. No, alpha energy is about being certain, even when you're silent, even when you're patient, even when you're calm. The power is in the choice. Weak men react. Powerful men respond. And when they speak, every word is deliberate. Every sentence reveals that they've done the inner work. And that's what most people are avoiding, the work. It's easier to fake confidence than to build it. But fake confidence fades. Real power, that lasts. You don't get alpha language from reading quotes or watching motivation videos. You earn it. You earn it in the gym at 5 a.m. when no one's watching. You earn it when you take the hard route instead of the easy one. You earn it when you shut down distractions and focus on your purpose. You earn it when you make a promise to yourself and keep it day after day, year after year, and then when you speak, people listen. Not because you're louder, but because your voice carries the weight of experience. You've got to understand, words shape energy. Energy shapes action. Action shapes life. So when you step into the world each day, you've got to check your language like you check your gear before going into battle. Are you speaking from fear or from purpose? Are you building your future or making excuses for your present? Are you speaking like a man who leads or a man who follows? It's time to kill passive phrases. Kill weak scripts. Kill the dialogue that keeps you stuck. Replace "I wish" with "I will." Replace "I can't" with "I will learn." Replace "I'm not sure" with "I am built for this." Speak with boldness. Speak with clarity. Speak with precision. Speak with the kind of belief that makes the world take a step back and say, "He's serious." Every time you speak, you're either programming yourself for greatness or priming yourself for mediocrity. And you can't afford another day of weak talk. You can't afford another moment of playing small if you're going to build something real. Your body, your business, your mind, your legacy. Then your voice has to match the mission. Your language has to reflect the life you say you want. You've got to sound like a man who refuses to quit, who refuses to bend, who refuses to settle, because at the end of the day, people may not remember every word you say, but they'll never forget how your presence made them feel, and your voice, your tone, your conviction, your energy is the most powerful weapon in your arsenal. Use it to command, use it to conquer, use it to become the man you were born to be. So from this moment on, every word that leaves your mouth must reflect the man you're becoming, not the man you used to be. No more soft talk, no more begging for permission, no more shrinking to fit into spaces you were born to dominate. Speak like your future is listening. Speak like your legacy depends on it, because it does. The world bends for those who speak with certainty, acts with intent, and refuses to be ignored. From now on, you don't just talk, you declare. You don't just express, you command. And when you speak, make sure your voice carries the weight of a man who already knows he's won.